plenty to get to, and great to have you along for the ride. The Adelaide Crows released their new logo officially yesterday, Moons. It got leaked a couple of months ago, and it's re-emerged officially now with some subtle differences from the leaked version. Now, as I said before the news, the replies are always fascinated by going into the comments. The replies range from, I've got shivers, finally we're reclaiming our identity, well done, all the way to vomit emojis. They even got accused, someone hated the logo so much, they even got accused of using the US election to drop the bad news, burying
it behind Trump,
which I thought was magnificent. But to explain it for you, it's basically a swooping crow, sharpened claws. It's got a red, menacing red eye.
Everything's sharp.
An evil sort of a red eye, and it's sort of swooping with intent. Now, I've got to say, I quite like it.
Yeah, see,
it's got a hard edge.
I'm not a huge fan. It reminds me of they're trying to do the power stance thing.
What are you talking?
That just didn't work.
Power stance?
Well, it's kind of like, we're trying to be powerful, and I don't know.
Sometimes
do it for something just doesn't grab you.
Well, look, this is it. It's in the eye of the beholder. These things always are.
People Crows fans, give us a call and let us know if you like it.
People get paid a lot of money to come up with these things, but the claws are sharp, the eyes sort of red and menacing, as I say, and it's got the tricolours in one of the feathers, I think, one of the wings. Anyway, it's swooping down. It looks like it's about to seriously do some damage to some prey below. I like it.
Box.
It's what?
It's like a box.
And I like Adelaide underneath too. So the font, did you see the font they'd used?
The font's nice.
Do you know what the font's called? No. The font's called 97, as in the year they won the premiership. So that's why they've gone.
I'll give them a tick on that one.
Gia says it's too sharp. The normal crow was fine. So that's why they've gone with that particular font. But I was just looking up some really ugly logos or mascots in the news. Fulham in the EPL is an absolute shocker. Bournemouth as well in the EPL is a shocker. So and we've already discussed some of the better ones. So St Kilda's the other one. They're investigating a new look for next season.
They've done that a few times now, haven't they?
Yeah, well, they had the Stickman for a long time.
I genuinely like the Stickman.
Stickman. So it's had its current logo, I think, for 30-odd years, the longest in the competition, and it shifted to its current emblem in 95. So before 95, that's when which we've seen a few times re-emerge, but the classic Stickman Saint was there for 20 years.
So the talk is the Gold Coast next year are going to be looking at revamping.
I think they need a revamp.
They need a revamp. The moment they ran out with their jumpers, I felt like it was a training jumper. I'd like to. I wasn't trying to make funny. I just thought it was. They could do something a little bit better.
There's many ways I could take that. And then they played, and then.
And what about? All right, so give me your Bombers. Give me your Essendon logo theory.
So last year we reported that Essendon was giving strong consideration to changing its logo. Now, if the Saints have the oldest, I reckon the Bombers would be the second oldest unchanged emblem. That jet was unveiled in 1997, I think. So they had last year started what they said was a long process towards a possible revamp. They conducted all sorts of preliminary research projects. They consulted with their various stakeholders, supporters, member groups, coterie groups. But when I looked at it, so the Essendon plane, it's nosediving. It's crashing to the ground. It's flying down.
What does the song say?
Exactly.
They're going
See
up.
The Bombers fly up to win something they're still trying to win. But the thing should be going up, shouldn't it? Like as a sign of positivity.
Saying it's nosediving.
It
saying
is.
It's crashing.
It's flying down. Now I don't want to. I'm not having a go. But this is what people get paid a lot of money to do: is to look at things like that you don't generally pick up on. So I know it might sound a little bit like we're. We're
spitballing and throwing.
Well, like the Adelaide Crows flying down, but of course a bird swoops, planes fly up. They don't nosedive into the ground.
Crows aren't predators; they're scavengers.
Yeah.
You got to look at those things.
Oh, okay. Well, you are what you are.
Yes.
I mean, unless they're going to change their logo. Now, I think it got confused in around the Essendon conversation that so PC are we now that they were going to go away from the bomb and take the plane out of their logo altogether.
Don't go down there.
Surely that won't happen.
Come on, we're not that far down that rabbit hole.
But I'd like to see a plane flying
up.
Yeah.
Or just
soaring. Jets full thrust. It's peak Phantom Draft season, Moons, and the wheeling and dealing is in full swing in the final countdown to November 20. And as we said before the break, this man has his finger on the draft pulse like no one else. Cal Twomey is with us from afl.com.au on this Thursday morning. Cal, really appreciate your time, mate. How's things?
Good morning, Sam. Good morning, Cam. Yeah, going well. Under 2 weeks to go, which is pretty crazy, but looking forward to it all rolling through. I think everyone's now at the point where it's just ready for it to happen.
Yeah, Twilight Zone sort of stuff, isn't it? And I don't know. I look at it, and one of the things I'm at least fascinated by is, you know, the wheeling and dealing in the lead-in, and then also as we can do now on the night itself. And I think a lot of us look at Richmond's draft haul at the moment, Cal, and just think something has to give here. What do we need to know about Richmond, who have obviously the 8 picks inside 24 as things stand at the moment?
Yeah, so the trade window actually closes tomorrow night at about 5 o'clock. That's the deadline for the pick swaps window. And then there's what we call, let's use the election phrase, a blackout until draft night actually opens on the 20th. So to this point, there's been no pick swaps made, and I don't expect anything really unless something comes out of the box over the next 24 hours, which would be unexpected at this point. Most clubs are keeping their powder dry. There's lots of discussions being had, and Richmond among them. I don't think they're that desperate to move these picks or to package them up to get up the board. So I think there's a chance that we see clubs come really, really hard for pick 11 or pick 18 or pick 20 on the night, where a club will probably pay overs and pay a future first-round pick, and a good one at that, to get into this year's pool because of the strength of this year's pool. So I think that's where, on the night, we might see something. I don't think they're desperate to use pick 6 and 11 or pick 6 and 18 to move up to pick 2. North Melbourne obviously has pick 2 very much on the table. There's a lot of discussions being had with that North selection, whether they can slide back 3, 4, 5 spots, even 2 spots. There's been some discussions had between North Melbourne and Adelaide, 2 and 4. Whether there can be a swap around there. North might still get their man at pick 4. Adelaide could then get a pick of the even greater field of midfielders at pick 2. So those type of discussions are had. But as I look at the Tigers, I think that the most likely option is that they wait till the night and then see if they can maybe shift one of these later ones out for a future first-round pick.
Yep.
Cal, does that all depend on what happens with academy and father-son selections early?
I mean, not too much directly to that. I think everyone knows where those bids are going to come roughly. So I don't think anyone really expects Levi Ashcott to get the bid at pick 1 from the Tigers. It's obviously a rare case for that to happen. We know Jamari Ugle-Hagan happened a couple of years ago in 2020 from the Crows bidding on him at number 1. But that was one out of the box. So I think that Ashcroft, Kako for the Bombers, Leo Lombard as well for the Suns, all look likely to be around that first sort of 8 to 10 selections in terms of the bids, and then an academy player by the name of Sam Marshall for the Lions. He probably comes in around the 20. So not too affected by that, but it does mean that the first round will bounce out to be 26 or 27 selections again.
Cal Twomey is with us in the countdown to the draft from afl.com.au, of course. And Cal, I mentioned the Phantom Draft. There's been endless discussion about how even this draft pool is. You'd be right across that. So do you have an anointed number 1 at the moment?
No, it's not a great year for Phantom Drafters, Sam. Fair to say.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. No, not yet. I mean, you speak to clubs and a lot of the talk is around Sam Lawler, the Greater Western Victoria Rebels prospect, who's got a bit of Christian Petrarca about him. He wears number 4 and does a lot of fend-offs. So there's, hallmarks of another player who the Tigers have had a fair bit to do with over the last 15 years as well. But he is a player that has been strongly linked to them, as well as Fino Sullivan. I think they're probably the main 2 that most clubs believe the Tigers will be looking at. But it is rare. I mean, there's been cases of this before. We kind of move on and forget a little bit, but Paddy McCartan and Christian Petrarca in 2014, the race for number 1 that year wasn't really clear until the last couple of days. Andy McGrath, even at the Bombers a couple of years later in 2016, wasn't really obvious. So there's been cases of this before, but I don't think we've ever seen a group as even as this one where the player who could go number 1 in Sam Lawler, other clubs could have him at number 5 or 6 as well.
Just looking at St Kilda, Cal, I mean, they've got picks 6, 7 and 8. Is it just what is best on the table at that stage for Saints, or are they more looking at what they specifically need?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, at that point of the draft, talent overrides needs, I think. But there is, I think, you look at the Saints build, and you hear from Ross Lyon across the year, and probably after most post-game press conferences, he spoke about the midfield. So there's going to be some good midfielders available to them. Funny, like the way they finished the year probably cost them a really, really early pick, didn't it? Those couple of wins at the back end of the season for the Saints. They end up with 7 and 8. The difference between the midfielders at 7 and 8 is probably a little bit of a gap between the midfielders at 3, 4, 5. So I think the midfielders who could be around that point of the draft, though, Murphy Reed, Josh Smiley, Toby Travalia, Bo Allen, these type of guys. And then there's a couple of tools who are potentially in that range as well, like Harry Armstrong. Alex Taru, the Flying Viking, has been probably earmarked to be off the board by then with North Melbourne's interest, and a couple of other clubs looking at him as well. But he's one that if he got through, would be hard to pass as well. I think they're a good spot to add to their talent, and I think it was the right way to go. Look, clubs will come for pick 8, I think in particular, to try and package up and get into that top end of the draft, but I don't know if the Saints would be moving from there.
Just quickly, Cal, on the subject of father-son bidding that you touched on earlier, so someone like Levi Ashcroft, who I think some clubs have as the best player in the pool, like what club...
Are we being too nice?
Yeah, there is a reluctance, and there has been, and you sort of understand that, but could Richmond, could North Melbourne, even a Carlton be prepared to put a bid in really early?
Yeah, I think if it's not number 1, which I don't think it will be, I think it'll be 2, 3, 4. Like, I don't think it'll be too far off that. And that's probably about where he fits. I have him as, the best performing player across, 3 years now. So his CV is as strong as anyone's really that's come through in recent years. But it's also, there's arguments to suggest some of the other midfielders have even more scope as well. But he's going to come in and play, 25 games next year. And, he probably would have played on grand final day for the Lions if he was eligible to. His one VFL game, he got the 3 votes in the medal. So he was pretty outstanding throughout this year. But yeah, I think if it's not the Tigers, which I don't think it will be, it won't be very far behind. Look, the argument, do they make them pay? Brisbane's prepped. They know the point system as well as anyone. They've got enough points already. They've done all the trading, so they're ready to go for whenever it falls. There's
a message that's just come through here, Cal, about Collingwood, who they might be into, and the word is Matty Rao. Is that right?
He's not in this year's draft. No, he's look. I did say ungettable yesterday. The Matt Rowell contract story is going to be one that's going to be of a lot of interest to a lot of clubs next year. If it does drag into next year, the Suns will be keen to lock this one in over summer. We're talking about the 2019 draft class and some of the names who are out of contract next year as they enter that 6th season. Usually the general principle applied, Sam, as you know as well, is that they do the extra 2 years and get through to free agency. So I think most people think that's the way it goes. But I think Collingwood will have a crack at Matt Rowell. Yeah, I do.
Cal, great to chat, mate. I really appreciate you donating some time this morning. And as we said, less than a fortnight out now. It's going to be a big couple of nights at the AFL Draft. Appreciate your time as always.
All good, guys.
Thanks, Cal.
There he is, Cal Twomey there from afl.com.au. And SEN, by the way, Moons, will be live at the draft on the Wednesday. So that's November the 20 for the first round. John Donahue and James Pitcher from Bravo Management hosting the coverage there.
Can I just say, Gold Coast, you cannot lose Matt Rowell.
Cannot lose.
You can't be that club. Keep losing players.
There's no sense of that at the moment, but I mean...
it's just another name gets thrown around. You see Lynch, you see Prestia and all those kind of guys just leave. It's a big year for Dimmer.
Yeah, I mean, they have solved that of late, the Suns, I mean, they're on the clock, as we know.
But as a player, if you're there 4 or 5 years and you're not playing finals, I've got no hesitation for a player to leave.